Imagine starting out in life pursuing a career that you had your heart set towards. You studied for it. You are completely focused on this career. But out of the blue, a new path opens its way to you. Something that may not be as appealing to you, but yet you start to jump into it. You find out that you absolutely love doing it, and you pursue this new path, and this new path becomes the career for you for the rest of your life. My guest today wanted to get into filming, but yet he went down a career path of game development, creating such incredible titles as one you may have heard of, Rampage, 2, General Chaos, and many more. He's also an incredible father, husband, CEO of Game Refuge, just an all-around incredible individual. I had such a pleasure talking with him today. So let me not delay this any further. Here is my guest for Parent Quest today, Brian Colin. Good, but yeah, so it's funny, I was looking through your social media yesterday, and I feel like you posted maybe on your story on Instagram that you got bitten by Hugh Hefner's bird.
That's
such a random fact.
I was a filmmaker in high school and went to school for film, and I did an animated film that won like a half dozen international awards. And one of the award ceremonies, they flew me out to LA. It was sponsored by Datsun and Playboy and Paramount. And, you know, it was a great trip for a college wide-eyed, oh, gee, this is so cool, sort of thing. But yeah, one of the day events was to hang out at the Playboy Mansion and a tour and everything else. And he had parrots by that kind of famous pool grotto. And the guy was showing us, he's like, yeah, put your finger out there. He'll step right on your finger. And I put my finger out. Those little walnut breaking beaks just, it's just like, oh, cool. Bit by Hugh Hefner's parrot. Not many people probably can say that.
I don't think a whole lot of people could say that at all. So was this, you said this was when you were in high school, so prior to the creation?
That parrot bite was in college. I did this animated film that won all the awards in college.
Okay.
But I was a filmmaker in high school. That's what I went to college for.
Well, very cool. Yeah, I was in my head, I was thinking about it this morning. Like, I wonder if it was a parrot's way of saying, hey, you should put birds in Rampage because we are, we're vicious animals. You can't trust us.
I have learned that the hard way. For years, when this finger, I could tell the rain's coming because my finger starts throbbing. You got a pretty good bite.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's something that you don't hear about. It doesn't happen to many people.
It doesn't come up often. Come up often.
So you started with film through high school. Was your introduction to gaming, was it founded through family? Was it something that you found through school, or was it something that you kind of discovered yourself?
I backed into it. I completely backed into it. I mean, I'm got a few years on you. So when I was a kid, or even actually in high school, the extent of a video game was in your Magnavox TV and the console in the family room, and you had to put a colored screen across your TV because it was in black and white. But if you wanted color, you could play Pong. That was about it, the Magnavox Odyssey. And I was in school for film, and I did this one animated film because I could draw. And I found in college was, in high school, all your friends are always glad to get your films, and you do all kinds of crazy stuff and jungle movies and war movies and horror movies. And in college, when it costs more, and had a couple projects where, somebody flunks out and one of your major actors said, I did an animated film mainly because I could control every little aspect of it, and it won a lot of awards. And I went to New York, talked to, all over the place. And, everybody I talked to loved the film. They were like, yeah, you're going to have no trouble finding a job somewhere else. So came back from New York, and I saw an ad for the Valley Midway Company. And I thought I was going in looking for an artist, animator. And I thought, Valley makes pinballs. What would they want with an animator? I know they want someone who has experience cell painting because they need someone to paint on the back of the glass. This is, my 20-year-old brain going, yeah. So I go in there and they said, no, we're looking for an animator for video games. And I'm like, video games? Really? People do that? And I was not a video game fan. And like I said, there weren't many. Pac-Man was about at the zenith, and I'm like, Pac-Man, really? So I said, no, I've got a successful ad agency. I make, for bars, and you're going to have to pay me at least. It's not that I'm not excited, but I have this successful business. You're going to have to pay me at least $300 a month. And the George Gomez, pinball designer now at Stern, but back in the day, he was running the internal development side of things. And he just it's like, I think we can do a little better than that. And I was out of town. I got a call. They offered me the job, and they said this enormous amount of money, to me right out of college, like $13,000 a year.
Wow.
And I kind of made a joke of it. I was around with a bunch of friends, and I kind of hung up the phone, and I choked up. I said, this is it. Childhood's over. I've got a real job. And the thing was, it was never been anything like a real job. And childhood goes on to this day.
Yeah.
So yeah. I just stumbled into this. I mean, self-discovery, and it discovered more about myself through the discovery of doing games than I could have ever imagined. I just did not think that would be the way I was going. And within weeks after getting in, and the very first project I worked on, what they were trying to do blew me away. And they brought me in because I had an animation understanding that, there weren't really any video game animators much at all. And I was able to do quite a bit with very little resources. And I fell in love immediately, because with animation, you're drawing for months, you're filming overnight, you're filming frame by frame by frame, you send it off the film, it comes back weeks later, you figure out your mistakes, you start all over. With this, I'm working in the morning and I'm seeing it in the game in the afternoon.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm standing next to the guy, I go, oh no, let's try 10 frames per second instead of 8. Mm-hmm. That looks better. Oh, we need a little, So I fell in love with it, and I just right place, right time. Very lucky. I've been blessed. Totally blessed.
Yeah, that's quite the story. I mean, especially for somebody that didn't have an interest in video games at all. Yeah. It sounded like you were turned off by the idea.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that. All I'd ever really seen was Pac-Man,
right?
And I have a very kind of pen and ink style that I didn't see how I could enjoy doing this, but the immediacy of it, the fact that I could push these little pixels into something that looks like a cartoon, just really appealed to me.
So you're in your 20s at this point. Is it something that you grasped onto right away? Was it something that your heart kind of dove into, or were you still a little reserved as you were working on it?
Within weeks of working there, I was all in.
Wow.
I was all in. It was very much, this was their Bally Midway's original development team. Mm-hmm. They'd only done one game. They were still forming. It was very much a peer-to-peer. Let's try this. No, let's not try that. I worked with a lot of different, and the great thing about being an animator, a programmer is working on one project for 9 months a year. Mm-hmm. An animator's working on every project on the floor and can contribute. So I got to work with a lot of different people. With this guy, you got to throw out the ideas. With this guy, you got to kind of let him think it's his idea. With this guy, you got to beg. With this guy, he wants to do anything you want to do. So it was a great time. I started out as an animator, but within 2 months, there was a game that was out on test that wasn't making any money. I said, but it looks boring. How about and I came up with a little cartoon character to make it very silly. They loved it. And they let me reskin the entire game, exact same gameplay, and turned it into a game that then they went into production and they sold, and even had that character put in other games because the management likes the character so much. So it was a very free time, very not like it is today. I mean, the big corporations today, it's, you're lucky if you work on a drop of water for 9 months because there's 300 people on the project. This was 2-3 guys, girls.
Yeah. And it sounds like, to me, it sounds like the dream job, because you're exploring your creative side to yourself, and here's this outlet that you're able to just kind of run with, and it's just I couldn't even
I
imagine
couldn't
how
have
you
said it
felt.
better myself. That's exactly what it was, and that's why I said it was self-discovery as well, because yeah, it's nowhere I would have ever thought about going, wanted to go, but life takes you places that you don't I'm kind of a control freak, and that's good because what I do requires that.
Yeah.
But I would have never chosen that path.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it was at a time where everybody was very open to ideas. They were very willing to let people try stuff. And yeah, and I was getting paid for it. I was getting paid for it. I raised my family on doing this.
Right.
It was wonderful.
Lucky man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure if you were to time travel back to yourself then and say, hey, listen, you're going to be making video games, you're going to be, working with this company, you're going to have this incredible game that is a monument in the gaming community that everyone recognizes. Like, I'm sure your head would have just blown. Like, no way, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah, no, if I would have assumed it was a bad dream if I'd had that dream before I went in to take the job. I mean, and it was great people. Everybody was around my age. Mm-hmm. I mean, at most 3 or 4 year swing. And well, yeah, it was a great time. It was a great time.
So obviously I stated that I would categorize video games into creating artwork. It's a form of art. I strongly believe that. You are a father as well. Has your kids, have they headed down that path? Do they have a creative side of themselves? Do they have interest in video games? Do they have an interest in creating some kind of artwork, whether it be music, drawing, illustration, any of that stuff?
When after my son was born and my daughter was born, at that point in Midway, I started working I built an office out in the back half acre and started working from home half the time, or more than half. I could work at home. They let me start working at home. And so it was from the time I was, my kids could walk, tap, tap, tap on the door of the office. Dad, Mom says it's time for lunch. Mm-hmm. So they were very much involved in my day. Mm-hmm. And as they got older, they were, every game I did, I would bring home. So I had a basement full of games. So I always, in a big backyard. So all the neighborhood kids were always coming over here and hanging out. And I think it was a great time for them to be kids, because I did have a big wooded, backyard and all that stuff to play outside all they wanted. Mm-hmm. They could play inside on video games. But I was not much of a video game person. I did not buy all the games. My kids didn't ask for all the games. Mm-hmm. We had a pretty much well-rounded life. The games were definitely a part of their lives. And then later, as they got older, both my kids have come work for me, like, when they're coming back from college. My son, though, went to film. He went to school for film as well. And then my daughter went to school for theater. And so they both kind of followed the, I don't know if it's performance or, mm-hmm. both very creative, but in completely different ways, either side of the camera, if you will.
I would say the apple didn't fall far from the tree, because, I mean, you had that strong interest in film, and for your son to go into film and your daughter to go into theater, they kind of go hand in hand with each other. That's got to be pretty awesome for you as a parent to see.
I just want them to be happy. I mean, whatever they do has always been for me is like, because I guess because I was so lucky, because I was blessed with this kind of backing into this, when people are always, will ask me, how do I get into video games? It's like, follow your heart. Mm-hmm. If you can find a way to have fun doing what you're doing, whether you're, when I work as a fry cook or when I work, as in retail, it's like, have fun doing what you're doing. You've only got the one lifetime, make every day, find a way. It's, what is it? Probably my life, whole attitude on life I learned as a child, watching the original Mary Poppins, in every job that must be done, there is that element of fun. You find the fun and the job's a game. that is what I taught my kids. That's still how I kind of approach life is, what making video games can be. Well, it's a ton of work. And even though there are the parts that people see that, oh, gee, you get to test the game, you get to play the games, or you get to do whatever. It's work, but you find those elements, if you're lucky enough to be able to take those elements and make them fun for yourself. I mean, I have no problem not leaving this chair for 12 hours in a row without, my brain turns off, for all other things. My wife will come in, say something, and then 20 minutes later, it's like, did she say she was, dinner was on the table? And, it's just like, I'm rambling. I do ramble. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I love it. Yeah, keep it going.
I tend to ramble, so please start cutting me off when I'm way the heck off your point.
No.
It doesn't make me feel good that my kids got into the entertainment side of things. Yes, because I think they're making people happy, making other people happy. So yeah, that feels great.
Yeah, I like that very positive outlook that you have as far as you have a job and you work that job. And for me, the fact that you work with video games, I feel like that would be one of my dream jobs as an individual. I have no experience in making video games, but talking to my younger self, the inner child in myself, making video games sounds awesome. But yeah, I believe that there probably is a lot of stressful things that come along with it. But for you to look for the positives and make that fun and try to keep that fun, that's an important, that is an important life lesson, I think, because with any situation you get in, there is some sort of positivity that you can find in it to keep it fun for yourself.
Right. Well, and you touched on it too. There is still an enormous amount of stress. Not only am I trying to fulfill whatever I'm getting paid for, I'm trying to, it's not the kind of job. What I do is not the kind of thing that it's 5 o'clock and I can turn off even if I wanted to. Yeah. So I better find a way to make it fun, even the bad parts, because I am going to be waking up going, it can be, and it's too much for, I've got friends' jobs where I've worked over the years, and I've worked with a lot of people that do get overwhelmed by it and have to leave the industry. Not because the industry isn't fun, but because there's a lot of associated stress on the backside. So you got to revel in the good parts to help you get through the tougher parts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely. I don't mean to backtrace here, but you mentioned that a lot of the neighborhood kids were at your place playing video games, hanging out with your kids. When it came to you creating a new game or having a new game, bring it back to your house, did you ever rely on them to test the game out? Like, were you able to here, I made this, try it out, and let me know what you think of it? Or did that never really occur much within your house?
In the arcade games, not much, because the kids were 2, 4, 6, 8 years old. That first decade, no, not that much. In later years, when I started, form my own company after Williams bought Bally Midway and kept me on it as a designer for a couple more years. And then I left to form my own company. And then with those games, the kids were absolutely, okay, here's a Sega Genesis game, play it. What do you like? What don't you like? Because they were old enough to do that. And then throughout the rest of, my 30 years of Game Refuge, they've been involved as long as they've been home. And then at various points, like I think I mentioned earlier, in college years, they'd come home, they'd work at the local pizza place, or they'd work here. But if I needed somebody in the office, or I needed somebody to, creating promotional films for games we were doing, that kind of stuff, my daughter comes in, she's the actress, or my son comes in and he's running a separate office full of testers. So they've been part of it. I have always kind of wished that, one or the other or both would go, okay, I want to make this my career. But they've found what they love, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They're always happy to help tangentially, and they're always happy to support. But they're doing their own things, and that's great.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That is awesome to hear. And so throughout your career, you've been a part of game development. I feel like you've influenced a lot of game developers, and games have been created to nowadays. But for you to have Rampage under your belt, and with a game that started 30 to 40 years ago, I don't remember the exact release date of it. I know it's within that time frame, to today where we just had a movie released within the last few years. I mean, how does that make you feel to see, the game that, okay, so you started out with film, you went into creating games, you created a game that's so monumental that they've made a movie out of it. So basically, I feel like your life kind of full circle going from film game to film. How does that make you feel?
I mean, my dimples were on top of my head right now. Every time I heard a little bit more, I got to be an extra in the film. They actually shot a cameo, which ended up on the cutting room floor. But I mean, every time something would come up with that, it's like, it can't get any better than this. And then it does. And then it does. And, the premiere and the after party and all that good Hollywood stuff. It's the real thing, though. The real thing that really hits home is more that when I did the game, I knew it was going to be a hit. We all did. Our bosses said, no, you can't do this. And, you can't eat people. You can't make the player the bad guy. All the reasons.
All the things that make it fun.
I pushed it and we got it done, and it did everything I hoped it would do. And at the time, though, I was always disappointed that they didn't make little toys or keychains. So when I found out 30 years later, literally, that, it was being considered for a movie and all this stuff, excited. And it just keeps growing. But the biggest part for me was then I started getting invited to trade shows and events and gaming conventions. And like I said, I don't follow the industry. The only part of the industry I really follow is to make sure there's nothing too close to what I'm working on now. That's about it. And then I start going to these shows, and people are telling me, sharing stories with me one-on-one about how the game affected their life, or how they had best friends playing with not just Rampage, but arch rivals or General Chaos or any of them. People, and I mean, that really feels incredible. I mean, it's personal, it's one-on-one. That means more than the fact that, hey, it was great to hear that The Rock used to ditch school to play Rampage right from his own lips. But when you start hearing, just literally hundreds, if not thousands of people over the last few years remember a game that, although I knew I remembered, and I knew the kids in my neighborhood remembered, I didn't really think of it in terms of the number of people whose lives I've touched. And that feels fantastic. There's no better feeling in the world. There really isn't.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably, you've worked on this project for so long. You want to make sure it's perfect, and then you release it to the world. It's like you've given your baby away to the world, and everyone is consuming. Everybody, not the baby, but the project itself. But everybody is loving and enjoying it. And I couldn't imagine the feeling that you had about just it touching so many lives. I know for me, I have core memories of playing the original Rampage. I remember going to the video store down the road from us to pick it up, to rent it, to play at the house. I played with my dad, and those memories I hold very dear. They're bits and pieces of memories, but I still remember those. And then even going up to like playing World Tour, having that as a kid, I spent so much time playing that game, and I couldn't imagine for you just to hear that affect so many different people. Yeah, that game was awesome. I loved it. Spent a lot of time playing it. I talked a bit about the work and the stress and everything. I can't describe how much fun it is to make games like that. And it's a team. It's not just me. Right. It is the team. There's, exactly.
Programmers. I think we had, programmers, artists, animators, everybody pulling together. It's a very family, at least the way when I formed the early Bally Midway days was very much like family. After we got bought out by another company, they had a different way to motivate their designers, and it was all confrontational. Your game's got to be better than their game type thing. So that when we formed our own company, we went back to kind of this family approach. We're all pulling for each other. We're all working on this. And it's been a great way. It's been a great way to pass the time for the last 40 years. It's been great.
It adds to that positive environment too for you to work in, being able to work with people that you would consider family and having that family environment.
And there is absolute truth to the fact that if you're not having fun, the game's not going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not having fun doing it, the game is not going to be fun. The team has got to all pull together. Everybody's got to do their part. And a lot of times, I work with animators and artists and, people that are much more talented than I am in a lot of ways. And, obviously programmers that, I tried to program a game once. That was enough. So, but you got to work, and different people need different motivation. A lot of what I do in a group anymore is get everybody pulling in the right direction. Is probably the unspoken part of my job, as a game designer is, let's, get everybody pulling together. And I think being a parent has helped me over the years because partly because of my age, but partly because I'm bringing people into the industry and mentoring them, although I hate that word. But basically it's like, I'm parenting them on what they need to do for this game. And, everybody's different. You've got to find out what makes this person, what's that aha moment to get them involved with each other. Cause the team is everything when it comes to a game.
Yeah. So, as a parent, as a game developer, as a awesome human being, what advice would you have for people that are looking to pursue their dreams, whether they're a parent, because I'm sure being a parent pursuing your dream is a little more difficult than if you were, not caring for another individual. But we'll just say, what advice would you have for somebody that's looking to advance, whether it be game development, art, or anything in life?
It's corny. Follow your dreams. Okay. Follow your heart. You heard my origin story, as it were. I did not know where I was going, but I was willing to, try it, see what happens. I can't even begin to say how many jobs I have. I would, back in the day, when I'm back home from college and I would get hired at 3 different places and pick the job I like best. But I give everything a chance. I give everything a try. I was never, I'm going to be a great director. I like making films, but I had a friend who was a great photographer and I was good at editing and I came up with the stories, but I never really had a plan that I was following. So my plans are all about, okay, this is what I've got. This is what I've got to do to get it done. And they're more short-term if you consider 9 months, 12 months short-term with games. And so it fit my personality. I fell into it. But bottom line is follow your heart, follow your gut instinct. It may not take you where you want to go, but if you're open to the universe, if you're open to the universe, it may take you where you need to go, where you need to be. As far as the part about, what can you do if you're a parent? As a father, it's not just a guy thing, but that's the only aspect I can speak of. Is the guy thing is, okay, I've got to do all this for my family. I've got to put in my 9 to 5, or I've got to put in my 12-hour days, or I've got to be on the road, or whatever you're doing. That is going to impact. That's going to be a consideration that every father and probably mother, I'm sure, but everybody has to have when you're a parent, because those kids mean everything. You want them part of your life. You don't want to distance yourself from them, apart from the fact of what you've got to do to make money in a way like that. But if you can involve them in what you're doing, that is making their lives better. That is making you closer. How you would follow your dream, I don't have any advice on how you would follow your dream as a parent because, like I said, I've been really lucky.
Mhm.
I've been really lucky. I would still say just follow your heart, because as long as no one has any expectations, I mean, you're making a living, you're trying something new, your family's going to be the one who's behind you, whether it's your kids, your wife, your family is going to be behind you, making yourself happy because, as they say, if dad ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be behind you. They're going to support you. You may feel the guilt of, oh, I'm giving up this good job because I want to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not work out. It may work out. But, worry is one of the most useless things there is that a human can do to himself. It hasn't happened yet. It may happen. It may not happen. But worrying about it is just grinding gears. Mm-hmm. Move towards it. Do what you can. Have fun while you're doing that. And by the time you turn around and look and go, I'm at now because I tried to do this, you realize you've had that much time being happier than you would have if you just gave up on it.
Well said. Very well said. Yeah.
I mean,
as corny as you said, follow your dreams may sound, I completely and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I believe that you just said give opportunity a chance with whatever you do. And I feel like that you're a living example of that. You gave gaming an opportunity and look where you're at now. So that's very cool. Very cool. Last question. I think this was on the same post as the bird biting you. You said that you like to.
That was a terrible post, by the way, but I'm glad you got something out.
I thought it was hilarious. I saw you enjoy recreational drinking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
So if I were to come across at a place where they served a beer, what kind of beer would I get you? Or do you not drink beer?
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm definitely a beer drinker.
Okay.
Recreational drinking to me implies beer.
Okay.
But again, that's just what I can handle. These days, the lightest impact I can get is what I drink. I'm like, can I plug? I'm a Michelob Ultra guy because anything else, and I love like a good Vorsteiner or, depending on the situation, whatever beer comes my way. Actually, somebody the other day said that they were a beer snob.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't do crap beers.
The term snob is getting thrown around too loosely nowadays.
And I said crap beer is an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll drink any beer. And as George Orwell said, all beers are equal, but some beers are more equal than others.
Mm-hmm.
So but these days, if I can drink what I like to drink as often as I like to drink it, as long as it's a light beer.
Yeah.
When I stray too far off the path, you'll be talking to me and I'll be flat on my back. So.
Okay. Yeah.
But responsibly flat on my back, but flat on my back nonetheless.
That's awesome. Yeah. I always go for a good Mick Ultra. They're good beers. And I agree. People ask me, well, what's your favorite kind of beer to drink? We just moved to Cincinnati. So within the last year, and there are a ton of microbreweries around here. And while they serve great beers and they have tons of different kinds, you can't go wrong with just a nice light beer.
Yeah. No. So. Well, and I mean, I'm older now, so I still like my evenings out to be long. Yeah. And if I start too early, with a 3 Floyd zombie dust, then I am.
That's game over.
For me, it is. It's like my, I have plenty of friends that can still hold their own with that. And, they great beers, craft beers. There are a lot of great ones out there,
Yeah.
But, I've learned to avoid those too early in the evening.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. That's cool. Brian, it's been a pleasure having you on. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and hopefully I didn't put you on the spot too much there. But if people were to try to look for you online or get in contact with you, if you want for them to get in contact with you, where's the best place that somebody could find you?
I'm on Facebook, Brian F. Colin. My company, Game Refuge, is on Facebook. doing the new game General Chaos, a remake of the first game I did for EA when we formed Game Refuge 30 years ago. I'm working on that. So General Chaos fan site is on Facebook. I still have a website, Game Refuge, where you can see, like, I've worked on about 90 games so far. And if you want, and if you care for that kind of minutia, it's gamerefuge.com. That's it, pretty much. Nobody's going to be sending me love letters or anything, so you don't need my address or my social security number, right?
No,
Okay,
definitely
good.
not. Well, maybe social security number if you want to.
No.
Just kidding. No. Brian, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking with you, and we'll stop.
Thank
there.
you. Hey, this was fun.
Brian, thank you so much for joining me today on Parent Quest. It was such a pleasure and an honor being able to talk to you about your career, your kids, your upbringing. Everything is just, I can just say I'm tickled to death about our conversation today. And you can follow me on Twitter at Parent Quest, and also on Instagram and Facebook at Parent Quest Podcast. Please, if you are feeling so generous, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to subscribe and like on YouTube. I think today I can officially say that this quest has been completed.